Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to this extraordinary meeting of the Oberon Council to be held today, the 30th of June 2025. This meeting will be live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused, or transmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. This meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory comments. Council acknowledges this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respects the history and culture of the elders both past and present. Record of attendance, all councils are present with the exception of Councillor McCarthy, who has sought leave of absence, and Councillor Frank O'Connor is attending by audio visual. And I note from the staff perspective that the Planning and Development Director is away, but he's represented. So I have someone to move the apologies and permission to attend by audio visual. Thank you, Councillor Tucker. Seconded, Councillor Graham. Thank you. I move the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Go to item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest by councillors?
I have none.
There are no declarations of interest. We move on to item 4, notices of motion, which is a rescission motion DA 2025.009, 3 weather monitoring stations. The motion is: we, the undersigned council, hereby move that the following resolution of the ordinary council meeting held on 20th of May 2025, that council approved development application 2025.009 for 3 wind monitoring stations at lot 31 DP 75730227, lot 8251 DP 1200276, and lot 61 DP 753027, subject to the conditions of contained in the following reasons. The development is permissible within the Oberon Local Environmental Plan 2013. B, the development complies with the Oberon Local Environmental Plan 2013. C, the development is considered to be appropriate and will not impact the locality unreasonably. B, rescinded. A copy of the signed rescission motion and associated supporting document is attached. Can I have someone to move that motion, please?
Thanks.
Frank, is that Councillor O'Connor? Are you moving it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Trembath. Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I sent through an email in case I couldn't connect today, but luckily I have, and on the email I'll just recant or just say what I said in the email. Have reviewed the attachment of the rescission motion, including the provided by Credit Legal. As the author of the decision motion, the recommendation which I'll be providing and speaking to on Monday evening's extraordinary meeting will be as follows. The decision regarding TAG weather must be rescinded.
Can you stop for a sec? What is the point of order, Councillor?
The point of order is that the mover and seconder can only speak to what the motion is being rescinded, not what is in the email. Thank you. And that is a procedural motion.
I thought the email referenced why
the email stated recommendation. You cannot speak to the recommendation. You can only speak to the rescission motion, which is as listed in the document.
All right. Well, Councillor Connor, if Councillor Hayden wants to persist in this, I suggest you'll have to incorporate in what you're stating what was in your email.
Which is what I was just doing?
Yes, fine. Please do.
Okay. As the author of the rescission motion, the recommendation which I will be providing and speaking to on Monday evening's extraordinary meeting will be as follows. The decision regarding TAG weather must be rescinded with both the applicant's solicitor and Beattie Hughes coming to the same conclusion that the decision was made on an unapprovable basis in consequence of council publicly misdirecting itself. Point 2, once council rescinds, it would be open to making its decision following a re-exhibition of any DA which states and properly characterises an approvable land use. I think there's been a further opinion. I believe there's been a further opinion provided to council, and I just, in summary, would say that I wouldn't, TAG wouldn't, TAG would not want this to be the DA to be approved on a basis that's not correct. But anyway, I'll leave that to you, and that's what was in my email, and also so I put forward that the DA be rescinded.
Okay, Councillor Tremblay.
Yes, I support it, and it's on the basis that, again, we've got some legal advice there that covers that perhaps it shouldn't have been considered under the DCP. And all I'm actually saying is that we should reconsider it and do it correctly and ensure that we don't have any challenges possibly in the future. And there is another Met Mast that's coming to us as well, either in July or August, and it's part of Pines as well, that will be considered under the SEP as well. So it's really not to block it, it's just to make sure that we do things properly. This is not something that we've done before. So it was considered under the GTP and a research station, but it really should have been under the SEP and 2.36 infrastructure. So that's my reasoning behind supporting the rescission and letting it come back to us in either July or August after it's been re-exhibited and assessed in the manner that it should be.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Edwards.
As one of the 4 councillors who voted against the DA for the Met Mast, primarily because I fundamentally oppose wind farms and ancillary developments, I declined the offer to actually sign this rescission motion for the following reasons. I believe the council's planning department adhered to correct planning and statutory procedures as confirmed by council's legal correspondences. While I personally disagree with the original resolution, I respect the outcome of the democratic process. In my view, attempting to overturn majority supported decision without any significant new sort of evidence sets poor precedents in terms of governance. And lastly, I must ask, what has this frivolous, poorly considered motion cost this council in staff time and money? In particular, legal fees. At a time we are facing significant sort of economic headwinds. We need to exercise fiscal responsibility because these types of ill-conceived distractions do not help the community in any way. Thank you.
Councillor Hody.
Yes, I'll be speaking against the rescission motion, not only to oppose it, but to defend the rule of law, the integrity of this chamber and proper use of council resources. This motion is wasteful, legally flawed and politically motivated. On the 20th of May, this council lawfully approved development application 2025-009 for the wind monitoring masts based on staff advice, compliance with the Environmental Planning Act 1979 and permissible under clause 236 of the Infrastructure SEP 2021. That approval was sound. The development is permissible with consent on RU3 zoned land for electricity generating works. This is not an option. It's now confirmed by Crennan Legal, our planning law specialist, who states plainly, council has power to grant development consent to the Met Mast pursuant to clause 236 of the Infrastructure SEP. The correct source of power now being identified, the previous mistake in source of power works no invalidity. Crennan Legal, 25th of June, 2025. Yet here we are entertaining a rescission motion put forward by Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Tremblay and Councillor Lee because the vote did not go their way. Let's be open and frank about this. 2 of these councillors, Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Lee, are members of the Over and Against Wind Towers group.
Councillor Haynes, people can be members of one organisation. Point of order. You are point.
No, this is a legal statement
No.
I can make. Councillor Trember is a known supporter, yet none declare a conflict of interest.
order.
will
No
Point of order.
conflict of interest. Point of order.
proceed.
You are desist. That's it, councillor.
I would
Does anyone
like
want
to
speak?
finish
I will,
my
I'm
statement.
not allowing you to finish. Right,
Mr Mayor, dissent. I rule dissent
good,
because I can. I have backed this up with Office of Local Government.
good.
I am well
We'll
within.
take it to local government and
even
take me to
though
task.
They rely,
Right,
I would like to finish.
I move
please.
that councillor Hayden be ceased speaking. Do I have a seconder?
I suggest that councillor Hayden be permitted to move her dissent, and if she gets a seconder for that motion, we can decide.
All right,
Yeah.
if you have a seconder,
Yeah, I'll second it.
right. You want us to speak to it, councillor Hayden?
Yes, I would. It's our obligation under the Act that if we, any person who is a member of an outside organisation, Mr Mayor, cannot bring the outside organisation's influence within the chamber. We must follow the Local Government Act 1993 and actually have some references to the specific parts of the Act. And these are compliant issues under governance. So I am allowed to, in fact, mention something that is significant in regards to our governance.
Well, leave me the right section.
I will now, if you give me a moment. Under section 232 of the Local Government Act, it requires councillors to act honestly with care and in public interest.
Are you saying that,
Under-
are you saying the two councillors who've put and seconded this are not acting honestly? Is
No,
that an
I'm
allegation
just
by you?
reading the Act, Mr Mayor. If the two councillors are in fact members of Over and Against Wind Towers and they have put this forward because of an outside influence, that under the Act can't occur. So I was actually just reading my script, which I've actually had double checked and passed.
Sorry, you haven't referred me to correct. What sections are you referring? You're still talking about the dissent.
My dissent was your ruling stating I was out of order, mentioning the membership to an outside organisation, of which is a well-known fact that Councillor O'Connor got onto council to stop wind turbines, but in fact
Point of order,
Council-
Mr Mayor. Point of order,
Council-
Mr Mayor.
declared an interest.
Yes. We should say it's passed. Yeah, has been done. As long as the one commission is something that we Right, well, it's the one.
Mr Mayor, I have the relevant clause.
Yes,
Clause 516, non-pecuniary interest. You must disclose in writing any non-pecuniary conflict of interest that you have in a matter, and this includes associations, memberships, organisations, relationships, or affiliations that may give rise to reasonable perception of conflict. Membership in OAWT, affiliation, support or alignment with their goals, tabling reports they may have funded, all of that must be
So you-
disclosed, even if there is no money involved.
it may very well be. I'm not sure what the interest disclosure.
It's non-pecuniary.
It's up to them. It's up to their councillors.
But I can legally raise that, Mr Mayor.
Well,
Has been.
I can omit what I'm saying and continue on with my speech against, if you like, and I'll admit any reference to over and against me.
all right, we are currently, we have a motion about dissent.
Yes,
Do you have to do that?
So we have to deal with that first.
okay, well, my dissent was that
You have a seconder. Anyone
Yes.
speaking else against that
The
motion?
second hasn't spoken.
And they haven't spoken.
Continue on.
What, how do you mean?
The
Well,
dissent.
allow her to speak. So I've nothing more to add, just allowing her to speak.
Right? Do we have someone against the dissent motion? All right, I'll put it. All in favour? All against? So that's it.
Okay, so can I continue to speak? What?
No, because the dissent motion,
Well, that was the motion of dissent, but may I finish my?
no, because I said, we're not hearing you accusing councillors
Okay.
respectfully.
So,
So that's it. Councillor Lee.
I'm. Yeah, no, I wasn't asking to speak. But did you ask me to say? So,
No, you put your hand up. So I was,
no, I was putting up that I supported that.
anyone else wish to speak on this?
So we're speaking on the decision again.
Yes. Yes, councillor Taylor, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When council approved this DA in May, I supported that approval. And in terms of the merits of the application, I haven't seen anything that would change that opinion. I would still support it on its merits. My only concern was after we received the first legal opinion to make sure that we were acting within our powers and in order to reduce the risks that we might find ourselves in court and potentially losing in court. So I do think it was valid for us to go through the process of getting our own legal opinion, which I have read thoroughly. I've only skimmed through the one that has just arrived today. So I note that even though the resolution referred to the incorrect powers, it was still considered valid, and the advice was that there was no need for council to rescind it. However, I think it would be better to have a resolution which refers to the correct legal basis. Because I think that would be clearer for anyone reviewing the resolution in future, and I think it may somewhat reduce the chances of someone still deciding to challenge the resolution in court, just to have that clarity of the valid legal power. So what I am proposing to do is vote in favour of the rescission motion, which means that we will then debate report number 5.2. When that comes up, I would be proposing that we will support the DA, but altering.
Okay, we actually don't go into that. We're only talking about the decision motion.
No, but I'm explaining why I will support the rescission.
You don't have to do that. It's exactly the same as legal.
Call that. Okay,
So that is my reason that I will vote in favour of the rescission motion. Not because I think we need to re-advertise or anything like that. I think we can still do with it today.
anyone else?
I think Councillor Tucker's reasoning makes a lot of sense, actually. If we then go back and have a look at the DA today, which we can do, we can still pass it if we to have a look at it.
Yeah, we have to deal with the rescission motion.
Yeah.
To stand on
Rescission
that.
motion, yeah, I think should stand. And similar reasons to Councillor Trimber.
The advice I'm understanding is that we're dealing with the rescission motion now. And what occurs in a subsequent resolution occurs as a subsequent resolution. That probably not going to be linked.
My comments relate exactly to what's been said.
Right.
may I
And that
please have
is-
permission?
that is-
Well, I'll ask the general manager for comment. Thank you.
So the advice received from council's legal representative says you are in no further risk in doing that if you support it or not. So there is the risks associated with someone taking action against an application would not vary because the source of power is well defined by the Act, and this was because it was characterised differently, does not reduce your capacity to make that determination based on the development as it's sat.
Please have permission to speak.
Yes, councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to continue reading on my speech without referring to any membership of any party. Let's be clear, this DA was not for a wind farm, but for temporary met masts. These are preliminary monitoring devices permissible under the SEP Clause 236. Even if staff mistakenly characterise them under the LEP as research stations, Crennan Legal states the mistake does not invalidate the consent because the legal authority to approve under the SEP existed and was exercised. This is backed by case law from the New South Wales Court of Appeal and High Court. A mistaken source of power does not negate a legal decision if power exists elsewhere. To pursue this rescission after legal advice has now been delivered, knowing that our development is lawful under the SEP, shows disrespect for our planning staff and undermines community confidence in due process. This is not just poor governance, it is a shameful use of council for activist ends. The public expects better. We are not here to serve activist groups, we are here to serve the law and uphold
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Point of
Right.
order, Mr. Mayor. Point of order.
I didn't do any specific.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, councillor O'Connor.
Councillor Hayden referring to activist groups.
Yes, I've just raised that.
If any councillor, I call on this council to reject this rescission motion outright, call for public disclosure of who committed the BT legal report, and I would like to know who.
That is not.
I am allowed to request that, Mr. Mayor. Protect our planning staff, our processes, and our limited budget from misuse. And I would like to know the cost of legal advice and staff time incurred due to this rescission motion be disclosed publicly. And if these councillors feel so strongly about legal advice they relied upon, perhaps they should offer to cover the cost of Crennan Legal out of their own pockets instead of leaving ratepayers pay for their gains. Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor, do you want to write a reply?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I defer to both Councillor Trembath, Councillor Tucker and Councillor Graham's comments. They're the same as mine. I think it'd be only wise to follow the course of action that was recommended. Thank you.
All right. I put the motion. All in favour of the motion. Councillors Trembath, O'Connor, Graham, Tucker and Lee. Against? Councillor McKibben, Hayden and Oliverius. So the motion to rescind has passed. Okay, we go to the next item, which is item 5, report for the decision. 5.1, 2025-26 integrated planning and reporting. The recommendation is that Council 1 adopt the draft 2025-29 delivery program as exhibited, noting the minor administrative amendments highlighted in this report. 2, adopt the 2025-26 operational plan and 2025-26 to 2034-35 long-term financial plan, noting the adjustments made during the public exhibition period. 3, adopt the 2025-26 statement of revenue policy. 4, adopt the 2025-2029 roads asset management plan and 2025-2029 workforce management plan. 5, pause the free tip day and bulky goods related services 2025-2026 to allow for further data collection and operational review by the Waste Working Party. 6, note and consider all public submissions received during the exhibition period and provide a formal response to participants as part of the community engagement process. 7, authorise the General Manager to make minor adjustments to the suite of IPNR documents to reflect any administrative changes and outstanding statutory fees and charges not yet received. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Tucker, can I have a seconder, please? As per the recommendation. Seconder, please. Councillor Graham, thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I wanted to commend the staff for getting this report and all the responses to public comments. There's only been a small window for those to be read and commented on, and for these papers to be prepared in time to come out to us last week. So I was impressed with how quickly and thoroughly that has been done. I note that there have been only minor changes, most of them administrative changes, since we looked at the draft documents back last month, and none of those have presented any concerns to me. The only comment I really wanted to make is in relation to recommendation number 5, which refers to pause the free tip day and the action. And I have read the commentary from members of the public about those items and acknowledge that there is some angst out there about those services at least being paused. I did want to make the point that the pausing of the bulky goods collection was done 12 months ago. That's not a decision we're making now. That was done 12 months ago after the DI levy was discontinued. So there hasn't been a bulky goods collection in the past 12 months. So all we're doing is continuing that and adding the pausing of the free tip day until such time as we get a better handle on where we're going, particularly with the costs of our waste management. We know costs are increasing substantially. We know there are new requirements coming on us in the foreseeable future. And I think it is only prudent on our part to make sure that if we are going to bring them back in, that we can afford them and that we are clear on what source of funding. With the previous source of funding for the bulky goods, that's gone. We can't use that. So to reintroduce it, it either has to come from increased tip fees or increased charges on every member of the community. And I'm sure there'll be just as much reaction against either of those courses of action as well. So I do think we are following a more careful approach, waiting until the current review has been completed and seeing where we stand and then making those decisions. But that was really the only substantive comment I had on any of those 7 recommendations. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the recommendations, and I know that the tip day in the bulky goods has created a lot of discussion in the community. So I think pausing it like that and having another look with the Waste Working Party is probably a good idea.
Councillor Trimble.
Yes, I support it, and just going back to talk about the bulky goods. I'm very keen to have that back in our community, and I think, as Councillor Tucker indicated, that the Waste Working Party was just trying to be responsible and understand truly how much that did cost us, but not to do away with it, how to make it work. But when we do have all the right information to make those decisions, we won't be losing money providing the service to the community, because it was, I read all the submissions and it's exactly that, you know, we've got a lot of elderly in our community and they have relied on that for a very long time to pick up materials that they just can't get to the tip themselves. So it's not to be done away with, it's just paused while we take a good look at everything first.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, look, I'm a little bit concerned because what has been presented on the website compared to what we have in front of us are not exactly the same, as we know. I think it's a substantial difference, and I'll give an example. We've got publicly exhibited version of the STP, which is down at $19 million, and does not really include any reference for a $4.5 million supposed loans that may occur. Our printed version states 17.5. It includes that loan as well. So that's a $1.5 million difference, effectively. And also, I couldn't find any reference on the weighbridge at all, the $500,000 cost of this weighbridge in either document. You know, so that concerns, these aren't minor changes. I think they're fairly significant. And re-exhibiting the corrected documents is the thing to do. And it's not about delay, it's about respecting community. You know, we're here to serve, and we need to get it right, I think, documents, because that's what they rely on. I also have a concern about 0.5. You know, the community is definitely clearly frustrated about the waste proposals, as per the correspondences, and scrapping the bulky good pickups and cancelling the free tip days and introducing a green waste tip. I mean, these are highly unpopular. So are we being penny wise and pound foolish, you know, in this area, in the sense that it's an important service for the elderly and the community at large? And look, I haven't seen any costings of the service to sort of make that informed decision. So I have concerns over that as well.
Councillor,
Yes, I acknowledge the documents are being presented under the IP&R framework as required by the Local Government Act. However, preparation under the framework does not excuse material omissions, misrepresentations or failures in public transparency. The framework requires not just technical compliance, but that content be accurate, complete and clearly exhibited to the public. In this case, the $256,000 weighbridge allocation approved by Council on the 20th of May and funded from reserves is completely omitted. It's not in any carryover. It's not listed as a line item in anything, and it's a capital expense. The $17.5 million STP, which Council's already committed significant funding to, is not costed or staged in the operational plan or at the LTFP on the publicly exhibited documents. It is in the documents in front of us, so there's significant material changes. The existing $3 million loan is not disclosed on any document. The proposed $4.5 million additional loan and grant risks are not disclosed in any version that was exhibited publicly. These are not procedural complaints. These are material financial omissions affecting the integrity of public exhibition and our statutory obligations under Section 405, Part 3 of the Local Government Act 1993, Clause 406 in brackets 1B of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, and the OLG IP&R guidelines, which require that exhibited documents reflect true and complete financial positions. And with that in mind, I would like to move an amendment that Oberon Council resolve to re-exhibit the IP&R suite, including the 25-26 operational plan, long-term financial plan, statement of revenue policy for 28 days under Section 405 of the Local Government Act 1993, and ensure transparency and procedural fairness due to material post-exhibition changes, including an altered net deficit position, inclusion of the $4 million loan for STP, unsecured grant funding assumptions, operational service changes not previously consulted on, and the weighbridge $256,000.
Ask the council to repeat that.
Yes, I can bring it over if you like, Sharon.
Appreciate it.
Sorry?
That will be appreciated.
doesn't take it.
I can address any concerns that anyone has around risks of, putting on exhibition as well. And I haven't got a seconder as yet.
Just a recap of the full information. Do you want to read the questions? Yes, please. So if you could go through the questions or the issues you had, then they can be, I'll ask the Director of Community Services to address those one at a time.
Sharon's putting up a motion. I just want to do an amendment to defer and re-exhibit. Everything in the papers needs to be correct as per the documents we have in front. It's not the exhibited version we're
The
approving.
claim is that they aren't appropriate, so we have to answer that question. I'm getting direct opportunity. So can you raise those specific issues you raised?
Given my documentation to Sharon. Sorry, it's me. So the $256,000 weighbridge allocation has not been listed in a carryover on any of our documentation.
All right, well, let's stop with that one. Can I ask the Director to answer that one?
Sorry, Mr. I've got the Weybridge project is anticipated to be finished this FY with an opening on the 1st of July. So we were, all the expenditure will be captured in the current FY, not the FY that we're dealing with 25-26.
So it's in the current financial year,
So
not
it's
next one.
opening tomorrow.
That's the intention.
So there's still no listing in the previous financial documents, previous IPNR around the weighbridge allocation, which we already allocated. And then this amount, regardless of where it's going to be captured, the amount was sent through in 2025 and it needs to be shown in our documents that we put on next.
I understand it was in the QBRS.
QBR is just a procedural in-house
No, the
document.
QBRS is an update of the IPNR document of the delivery plan for that year for it
But
changes.
that's still not in the documentation that was exhibited publicly, sorry, Mr.
Through the
Chair.
chair,
So that-
the documentation as exhibited is next financial year, not the current.
Not the current one. That's the weighbridge. We were updated with, in the QBRS with the weighbridge cost. That's why we have a QBRS.
Through the chair, the comment, I believe was also raised about the changing scenario, the altered,
Material change.
an altered net deficit position. Through the chair, there's been no denying that net deficit has changed from 193 to 185, which through my experience with IPNR, those budgets do move around as we do further review work during the exhibition period, but that has been clearly itemised in the
I
documentation.
understand that. That is still a significant material change. It's not an administrative change. It's a material change.
193 to 185.
No, through the chair, we wouldn't have deemed that as a.
That's not material.
That is
That's
material.
over, what's that budget?
27 million.
27 million, and we're talking about a change of $8,000, $8,000. That's not material.
And through the chair, that was, there's some reasons for that caused with council not accepting a councillor increase, which has happened during the course of the exhibition period. Which
That's only a $300 difference in there.
through the chair, it's about a 7,500.
$7,500.
Well, it was 7,500 for one, and then the miscalculation of 8,000 and something in the other, which then leaves the gap between the three.
Sorry, I can't understand it. Can you explain that? I
Yes,
don't understand what you're
Mayor.
talking about.
It doesn't matter what I actually say, you're just going to pick at it, so I will.
No, I do not
Yep.
actually
Mr
understand.
Mayor,
I have
I
said
wanted to
you
move,
raised
there are material
193
changes.
193 to 185, a reduction in deficit of $8,000 over a $26.7 million budgeted spend is
The
immaterial.
documents, okay, material changes, the documents that are online, if anyone has read them, refer to the STP in several of the documents with varying figures. So there's some figures that note 12.5 in some of the documents. In other documents, it notes 19 million. In other documents, it notes 17.5 million. And the possible loan of 4.5 million is not in the exhibited documents.
It's all right. So I'll ask the community services.
Through the chair, the commentary about the STP. So some of the numbers that you're discussing there, the 12 million or 13 million, that relates to when we're actually bringing in certain amounts of expenditure for that particular project. So not all of that capital expenditure may fall within any one financial year. The initial documents that went on to public exhibition, there was a differing scenario on the STP because council early in June had a meeting regarding the progression of the STP, which no doubt there is still some uncertainty. And I think we've been very clear in that. During that meeting, council did look at some other scenarios should a potential $5 million grant not be secured and resolve to potentially source some borrowings. Those borrowings, as per the papers, are not meant to hit until 26-27, and that's where you'll find them in the.
That's okay, I'm not
in the
trying
long-term
to
financial-
Let him finish, please, councillor.
And that's where you'll find those highlighted in the long-term financial plan, and the commentary in those papers directs people to that.
Thank you.
Next point, please.
Mr General Manager, when you speak, can you not raise your voice and yell at me because it's not
I'm the mayor. Are you talking
Becoming.
about the general manager of the mayor?
yourself, it's not becoming.
Thank you. Well, don't interrupt
Thank you.
people, please.
I'm not trying to pick points and
You-
pick on
you-
staff. I'm talking
You
about,
were because you had
no,
the director of community services speaking.
Mr.
Councillor Hayden, I'm the chairman. I am telling you, you asked a question, the director was answering and you interrupted him halfway through.
You asked
That's not
the question,
acceptable
Mr.
conduct.
Mayor. You asked the question, Mr Mayor. I'm pointing out that the documents that were on public exhibition under the IPNR suite are not the same documents with the same information that we have in front of us. And I have asked for an amendment to put the documents back on public exhibition with the material changes. Just in one point here, on page 106, it states here in the online documentation that the Oberon Council's actively engaging with grant agencies. At the time of writing, the total estimated cost of the STP project is 19 million. That's conflicting with what is in another document online, which states that it's another figure, 11.5 or whatever. But this document that was displayed states 4.2 million in existing grant funding, 5 million in future grant funding subject ministerial approval, 7.8 million currently held in council reserves, including 3 million from a pre-existing loan allocated to the STP project, 2 million in additional funding with source to be confirmed or accessed through new loan arrangements. Now that is what the public's seen. Then down the bottom, we have another totally different in the documents we have presented to us at the time of writing. The total estimated cost of the STP project is 17.5 million. Funding is expected to be sourced from 4.2 million in existing grant funding. There's no guarantee that that can still be accessed through a stage process. 4.5 million in future borrowings estimated for the 26-27 year. That was not presented to the public for them to actually look at that. 8.8 million currently held in council reserves, including a $3 million from pre-existing loan, which is conflicting to the statement that was on public exhibition, which is 7.8, including 3 million. So they are material changes. I am sorry, but I do believe that we need to to defer this and put them on public exhibition.
So what page are you referring to, councillor Hayden?
Okay,
Yes.
Through the chair,
Director.
councillor Hayden is, just to recap, obviously referencing the initial documents that went on public exhibition with a slightly different, scenario regarding how we would, at that point in time, this would have been early May.
Before our STP
Before our
working
STP working party and Southern Council meeting, determining how we would potentially fund the STP. Since the time these have gone out on exhibition, we've had a council meeting where councils discussed this and STP working party, and that scenario has changed. Those then documents are put back into council's for, but also highlight that during the exhibition period, that is where changes like this do happen. We speak to members of the community who may highlight things that we take back. That's why you have the exhibition content there, the feedback there to change the ultimate operational plan and make those decisions going forward. So councillor Hayden could be right. We could put this back on public exhibition, and the STP scenario may change once again, because it is a project that there is.
So then we'd have to go and put them on exhibition again. We could be perpetually on exhibition.
Mr Mayor, I put forward an amendment. That is what I put
All
forward.
right, I'm waiting to see it.
After if I minutes.
Do you have a seconder?
I'll hold a second.
It's a speaker.
Yes. Council.
I mean, irrespective of what you said, or what was said, there is still a $1.5 million variance there. You know, they won't know what our scenarios are. When people go to read these documents, they assume that this is what we're going to be voting on. So they are substantially different. So I have a concern with that.
You're talking specifically about the STP?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify that
Yeah.
variance you're talking about.
correct.
But you will appreciate that since when these documents were first put out on exhibition, we've had meetings on this council, which has had men, and there has been advice from our special project manager.
Yeah.
And that has changed the situation, and we have to do that. And it could very well be, if we went out with these documents on public exhibition again in July, August, that the situation can change again. And my concern is that, you know, we could never get these documents out publicly because there could be substantial changes. Who knows?
No, I understand, Mr. Mayor, but the thing is, we're now going to be voting on this, which is not the same as what's on the website. That's all I'm saying is that we should have updated the website at the time and we could have been justified, you know.
Well, it nearly would have been out of the exhibition period. Because when was our last meeting? May 17th, 20th.
That's my concern.
Right. Further discussion on this matter? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure there are, or we know there are some changes from what was publicly exhibited to what's in front of us today. And as the director said, that's the whole point of having exhibitions and people putting in submissions. If there was never going to be any changes, you wouldn't even bother doing it. And it shows that we are being responsive where we're able to the comments that people have made. But in my assessment, I don't see anything that is significant enough to hold up adopting these documents today. So I'll be opposing the amendment. And I do just have one question following on from what you said, Roland. If you continue on making changes and re-exhibiting, you'll never get to the end of the race. Are there legal requirements for when these documents, do they have to be adopted by council by 30th of June, or what are the implications if we fail to do so?
Through the chair, you have no operational plan for the 25-26 operational year.
So I would have thought that a better way to do it would be to adopt what we have in front of us. And if there are any substantial changes, or if we find errors, or if the situation with the sewage plant has altered to the point that it needs some changes to the documents, we'll do that at QBR1. That's my view.
That's what you do at QBRS, yeah.
So through the chair, you may change your mind on a budget at every month.
Yeah, so that's right. And I'm saying rather than go round and round trying to get everything absolutely perfect before we adopt them, let's, and I'm sure staff are doing it all the time, if the circumstances have changed or identify an error in these documents, that'll be fixed at QBR.
I'm just.
Mr. Mayor, can I
That's
speak?
right. Yes, councillor Connor.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to thank the Director of Corporate Services for providing that explanation. I believe that we get budget updates every quarter, which, so as Councillor Tucker said, any changes will be reflected in that. I think the questions raised by Councillor Hayden would have been better put as an email to the Director of Corporate Services for him to walk through and explain those differences. But thank you.
That's right. Okay, any further discussion? Right, reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are key changes within the documents presented to the public compared to the documents that we're about to be approving or disapproving. I put up this motion to defer, and legally we can defer this. We would just be operating under last year's budget under a 1/12 rule, which means that temporary spending powers would apply under section 211 and section 405 until the budget's adopted, which would have been another 28 days until the 28th of July, giving staff time to update the documents and display publicly the content around the $4.5 million prospective loan, which is going to be a significant concern to the community, because that then takes our loan amounts to a probably $7.5 million debt over a 20-year term, which is an intergenerational debt that will have serious financial impacts to this community down the track. It may not show in a year or two, but over the next coming 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to have a significant impact. The repayments alone coming out of the sewer fund then takes our sewer fund down below the $1 million limit, even with the charges going into the fund. Our sewer fund is going to be detrimentally low, and should there be a significant repair or a major issue that we need to repair, our sewer fund is going to be impacted. So I have some concerns about that. The community have not had the chance to have a look at any of these facts around the 4.5 million, and that's the significant part that I would like this community to view and actually have some further input, because it's them at the end of the day that have to pay all this, not us. It's the community. So we can defer this legally for 28 days and operate under the 1/12 rule. Okay, council won't shut down. Essential functions will continue. It just means no rate notices can be issued, but I do believe rate notices have already gone out. And 28 days gives the opportunity for the community to look at what we are proposing and have any further input to it. Thank you.
Okay, I put the amendments. Sorry, all in favour of the amendment? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Levis. All other councillors. Councillor, you're in favour of the amendment? Councillor O'Connor, or against?
No, I'm not. Sorry.
Could you remove your hand, please?
Sorry.
Digital hand.
Virtual hand.
All other councillors against. We go back to the original motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Councillor Hayden.
Yes, Mr Mayor, as I brought up, the fact, back in May, I had actually wanted to defer the exhibition of the IPNR documents to actually present true and correct financial statements within it. My then motion at that time was defeated. Currently, what we're approving is not what was publicly exhibited, and I cannot support the current suite. I appreciate the work that the staff and everyone have put into it. Another correction that I'd like to bring up whilst I'm at it is page 166. This is something that occurs quite regularly, is the copy and pasting. So under introduction, integral component of IPNR framework, under statement of desired workplace culture, the first paragraph is also copied and pasted as a split paragraph below it. So I think that will need to come out of that documentation. And I really do hope that if this is approved, and I gather it will be because I actually don't get much hearing in this chamber, but the fact is, I haven't finished, Mr Mayor, thank you. I have to mention that this community deserves better, and it actually deserves a council that inform them about potential effects of a possible loan around the STP. I would like something publicly on council's website to explain the possible risk of this future loan. Thank you.
So I'm assuming, Councillor Hayden, you're saying that if this resolution's passed, that the community should have no confidence in this other councillors, and that you would like to move a motion of no confidence in the 8 other councillors? Is that
No,
what you're saying?
Mr Mayor, what I stated was that I hope this council can put some public exhibition out there regarding the changes, regarding the potential $4.5 million loan that will then bring the borrowings to $7.5 million over 20 years. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
At the previous meeting, council resolved to do that. As you know, we're in a delicate situation with the STP and the situation around it. Council will, when it can further clarify the position with the state government, as you're aware. So I don't understand your issue.
Because, Mr Mayor, the community does not know what is going on, and that is a lack of transparency. And I believe transparency in this council is a priority. Thank you.
Council made the decision at the meeting in June, and council, because there are delicate negotiations being undertaken, unfortunately, that's the nature of council, but we can't disclose everything. So that's where we are, council. If you don't like that, then that's the position. But we are in delicate negotiations. That's why there were certain issues in confidential, you recall, at the last meeting, and we cannot go into that now. But back to the original motion, I would make a comment in relation to 5, because I, like everyone else, heard the comments of the community. I note that I think, and I note the comments by Councillor Tucker, but we also have to remember that the benefits of the bulky goods, and in particular, and to some degree, the free tip day, benefit probably most, but not all, maybe the bulky goods more than the other one, the bulk of it would have benefit those who were in the town improvement levy previously. So what we need to do is look at this. There has been substantial reduction in some of those people not having to pay the town improvement levy. So what we need to now do is look at what costing it would do to bring those back in. Because I'm certain for long rate payers, it would still be a considerable net saving, but I'm not sure the waste working party can look into that. But I think that analysis needs to be done. Because it could very well be that I know no one likes new charges, but if they've had a substantial reduction because the TI levies come off, and this is a small section back, well, you can explain it in that manner. And I'll give you the right reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, sorry, councillor O'Connor was just on. I didn't see his hand. Sorry. My screen
Thanks.
blanked out. I have
Thanks,
the
Miss-
recording.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I can't turn my hand off. Sorry.
We'll go to councillor Tucker. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What you've said about the potential to fund bulk goods collection out of the annual charges for town area ratepayers who have the weekly wheelie bin collection. That is exactly what the Waste Working Party will be considering. And noting that there has been an easing of the financial costs for town people as a result of the TI levy being discontinued. But also bearing in mind that town people, largely the same boundaries, have substantial costs in sewage charges to pay for the new sewage works if that goes ahead. So we need to keep that in mind as well. But if that's my right of reply for this motion, then that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So I put the motion. All in favour? Carried by councillor Tremblay. Councillor O'Connor, is your hand up? Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
my hand's up. Yes.
Tucker, councillor Lee, councillor McKibben, and councillor Leverett and councillor Hayden against. Thank you. I declare the motion passed. We now go to 5.2 on which is the development application 2025-0093 wind monitoring stations.
I have a motion.
Yes.
My motion is different from the recommendation as printed. So my motion would be.
Have you given it to?
I haven't, no,
Right,
I apologise, but it's reasonably brief and it would, in number one, it retains everything up to the start of the A, B and C. The A, B and C simply become A and B. So the new B would be the existing C. And the existing A and B become my new part A. And my new part A is that the development is permissible under clause 2.36 of the state environmental planning policy, brackets, transport and infrastructure, close brackets, 2021. So the existing part C where it says development is considered to be appropriate and will not impact the locality unreasonably would remain as is. It just becomes B instead of C.
So
So
for clarity,
yeah,
if we get to the beginning of the non-indented after reasons, colon, A then becomes the development is vessel under clause 2.36 of the State Environmental Planning Act.
planning policy, brackets, transport and infrastructure, 2021.
Yep, and then it just goes straight to C, doesn't it?
Yes, which becomes the new B. And part two of the recommendation about a division be called 6 remains as part two.
No, I think that's absolutely sensible. All right, do you have a seconder? Councillor Graham? Oh, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Hayden, right.
Yes, are you calling me to speak?
No, Councillor Graham, sorry, you want to speak to it now?
Yes.
Then I'll go to, after you two speak, I'll go to Councillor Hayden. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's really, as I started to say earlier when we were considering the decision motion, I have not changed my view on the merits of this DA in itself. I do think it is reasonable to approve it, given that it is not approving a wind farm, it is simply approving the monitoring towers, and the purpose of supporting the rescission and then putting this alternative motion instead of what's printed in the papers is simply to make sure the council's resolution on this DA is properly referencing the powers that we do have based on the Clean advice. So that's all I need to say, I think.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with councillor Tucker in that I originally voted for the DA to be passed, but I think that's probably a better way of doing it.
Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you. I accept the changes in the recommendation. However, it still doesn't make any changes to what we originally approved or such. It's just referencing something that people haven't understood in a broader context because it has been proven anyway. There's a precedent set, so regardless, we're just basically time wasting again. And I accept the DA. I move the previous motion and it is lawful. Councillors have to
We're
act.
sticking to this one at the moment. We've dealt with the previous one. Stick to this one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I wasn't talking about the previous one. I made a quick statement. I wasn't talking to it. Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I will continue that councillors must look at DA applications on merit and adhere to all of the acts that we operate under. And this is legally acceptable and as such I will be approving. Thank you.
Yeah. General Manager, make comment.
Yeah, just through the mayor. Council needs to be aware that this now indicates that we are reassessing an application. When council previously asked for some guidance from the planning director, it related to, I think there was a comment made by the planning director at the time that the waste management or the removal of such items didn't preclude the underground infrastructure that was placed on, which wasn't originally in the consent conditions, and that he indicated that he could make a change that would include the underground infrastructure when decommissioning occurred, and that would need to be reconsidered by council at this point in time because you are now making a new assessment of that. So I raise that because it is not exactly the same, because council previously indicated their thoughts around decommission. So an additional condition or an amendment to the conditions that included underground infrastructure, I'm sure council as a whole would still support. I just wanted to raise it because now you're reconsidering the application, you need to reconsider all the things that went into that previous.
That was in the on public exhibition documentation.
It was, but it was only for that infrastructure above ground, and council councillors made the comment that they would like to see the underground infrastructure also removed at decommissioning stage.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, may I speak? My hand's not working.
Yes, Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, just two questions to our General Manager. So you might just elaborate on that matter about that's significant about removing the concrete underground, how we get around that and include that in the motion here. And the second point is just, do we need to re-exhibit this DA now? Thank you.
So through the chair, the first one was, it was a comment made by a councillor in the discussions previously that the director at the time indicated that could be included in a condition of consent. So I think that will simply just be included in the conditions of consent, unless people don't have any support for that anymore. Secondly, in relation to re-exhibition, I'll fall back to council's own legal advice where they've said the power to do this has been undertaken appropriately, and as such, they can approve it at this point in time. Sorry,
Thank you.
you can determine it at this point in time.
So, my question is whether we need a C to say that, that the planning director consider the removal of underground infrastructure as part of the approval process at the removal of at the end of use of these anemometer towers.
So through the chair, previously you didn't include that.
Mm.
And it was just a concession that the director would include it in the conditions of consent. Because we hadn't got that far and because we are now reconsidering it, I thought that it'd be.
So I suppose I asked the proposer and seconder if they would agree with a C.
You don't need it.
I have no objection to including that in the motion if it's felt that would improve it. I take the GM's advice that it's not necessary and will happen anyway, but if councillors feel more comfortable with having it included, then I'm okay with that. And just to answer the second point about re-exhibition, if there was, if when it was publicly exhibited, if it was exhibited as a research station, which we've found with outside our powers, if it was incorrectly exhibited, then I would agree that it needs to be re-exhibited. I don't believe that was the case. It was just exhibited as the DA, and all the stuff about research station was simply in the report that came to us.
I'll just check with the general manager and ask him, but I think you
Simply,
repleted it correctly.
simply the clarification of the use.
Yeah,
It was exhibited as monitoring.
that's right. And the only mention of research station was in the report.
Correct.
So, yes,
So I don't think there's a need to re-exhibit.
Councillor Tremblay.
So the mention of the conditions of consent that came up at the last meeting, as long as that can be noted now, because the planning director did say, yes, I will make those changes to the conditions of consent. So if we don't have to include here in the motion, it's just noted, recorded, that we will include it in the conditions of consent. I'm happy, because it was just about underground, and he said, yes, he could include it in the condition,
He could include it in the conditions.
or he
Yeah.
would.
He would.
He would include it in the conditions of consent.
Well, as far as I'm happy with that, if that's otherwise, I suggest we put it as a C, but if we're happy not to, that's fine.
We discussed it in the advice.
So, all right.
I think it's pretty clear that the director would include it.
Could I reply? Sorry.
Oh, can I speak,
Yes.
through the chair? So this is to clarify, if these towns are given consent, monitoring, these are the conditions that we're going under, that we're taking on.
Correct.
That's if they approve.
This is,
that
well,
motion.
this is the motion to approve them. And the conditions are in broad terms set out in your papers. And we've asked for an additional condition that the, any underground works associated with these also be removed from the anemometer tower that are removed.
From the previous discussion, Mr. Mayor was also, and we're going to dispose of it at the Burraga and Black Springs transfer stations, and council said no to that as well. So those sort of little things that we'd include in a waste management plan, that is what.
Councillor Tucker, right reply?
I don't think I have anything more to add. Thank you, Mr.
All right. We've got the motion up on screen. Okay, all in favour of the motion? So councillor Trembath, Hayden, Graham, Tucker, McKibben. Against is Lee, Alevris and O'Connor. Have I got it right? Frank, I didn't see it. Councillor O'Connor, you were against, I take it?
That's right. I've got the hand working again.
That motion is approved. I'll go to item 6, closed session. There are no confidential reports. I note the meeting, meeting closure at 3:14 PM if it's 3:15 PM if it's by the clock. 3:15 PM today, with the next meeting being on July the. It's July, 15th of July at 5:30 PM in these chambers. Thank you very much for everyone's attendance.